I got a brother that's AVH, audiovisual.
Yeah, I used to do that too.
He's the director at the Hilton Amateur.
Yeah, those need a lot because they do a lot of presentation services. So I'll just run through the beginning of the slide. We only covered a few slides the last class. I'll go ahead and run through those and edit my audio later. So this chapter, Unit A, just to do a recap on it, we talked about computer and internet basics. And we went through all of these bullets right here: defining computers, explore how computers work, categorizing computers, examining personal computers, introducing software, introducing the internet and the web, and then understanding email basics. So that's all the things that we'll cover in this first unit. I'll go through these pretty quickly because we talked about these last class. We talked about what the computer was, what does it do: an electronic device that accepts input, processes data, stores it, and then produces output. PC stands for personal computer, just in case anybody was unsure of that term. just to make sure. Computer system includes your hardware, which is going to be anything that's tangible, anything that you can actually touch, the mechanical parts of the computer. Peripheral devices are going to be hardware that's added to the computer for extra functionality, so that you can do other functions like have a document camera or a printer, a scanner. Those things are called peripheral devices. And then you have software. That's going to be where you are allowed the ability to perform a specific task on your computer. And so the two main types of software you have is system software and then application software. So the system software is going to be what? Anybody has an idea of what system software is?
It's like
the operating system. So it'll be like Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows Vista, Mac OS. That's the system. It's the background application that's running. It's foundational. Everything that runs on the system runs on top of the system software. Now, the application software, those are the things that are more tailored to what you want to do on your computer. So like if you have like a handheld device, like a cell phone, I would say a smartphone, not a PDA, because no, we don't have PDAs anymore. So if you have a smartphone, when you want to get a new game or you want to do something new or you want to do mobile banking, you download an application. On a computer, you might want to write a paper, do a PowerPoint presentation, so then you'll have to go purchase Microsoft Office. So you have to remember, application software is for specific individual tasks, things that you want to do, kind of like I would say the fun stuff, and then system software you need to actually run the computer. Then we went through these. This slide here kind of points out what's a computer part, what's a monitor, what's a speaker. I think we all know what these are, right? Monitor, speaker, keyboard, mouse. Okay. That's one of those slides I should hide. And then we did input devices, those being the keyboard, the mouse, any other input devices we thought of, a scanner, a webcam, microphone, anything you use to take something that's happening outside of the computer and then digitizing it and bringing it into the system. That's going to be input. So then output was the monitor, a printer, speakers, speakers. Microphone will be input. Exactly. So you see the difference in it. Once it's on the system, then how do you bring it out? Those are the devices that are called output devices. And then we talked about digitization. Every time I say that word, I have to slow down. And that just means that you're taking anything from its raw form and putting it to a digital form. So like if you're speaking, you're digitizing your voice when you're recording it. So like if you're, typing on your smartboard, you're digitizing your keystrokes by actually sending it to your device. And it's going to create a message for you, a text or something like that. Photos, same thing. You're digitizing an actual event that's happening, someone standing there smiling. You digitize it once you snap and hold that moment in time. And you save it to your device, then that moment has been digitized, kind of thing. Make sense? Okay. And then conversions, that was where we left off last time. That's why I'm going through this really quickly, because I know we talked about this stuff before. I was saying the device that was the epitome of convergence was our smartphones, because they do everything. That's when you blend technologies into one device. So that's like, if you ever saw one of those all-in-one printers, they scan, they print, they do faxing. Now, mind you, we don't fax anymore. We kind of scan and email. but they do all in one task. So that's your convergence. The biggest digital convergence, like I said before, is going to be your handheld devices, laptops, things like that.
So the PDF work like the same way scanning through, because you can like PD, turn it into.
Well, yeah, when you scan a document, you can create a PDF with the file. So I do that with my attendants. When other classes I teach, I take attendance in it. Once they sign their name, I digitize it immediately, so that way I can work on it at home and I don't have to carry around the sign-in sheet with me. And it makes it into a PDF and it sends it to me in email. So we would do that in faxing, but then when we used to do that, we don't do it anymore. Instead of sending a PDF in an email, it would send you an electronic fax through the landline, and you'd have to have a fax machine on the other end. So, and then we move on to exploring how computers work. Turning on a computer. Anybody need to know how to do that? No, right? We all know what the power button is on the computer. I told you some of these slides are really basic, and I don't take them out because I'm just like, you never know. I have a lady in one of my other classes that asked me, and this is perfectly fine with me. I don't mind helping. I don't mind teaching to the middle, the bottom, the top. I'll go all over the place wherever people need. But she got to the screen. This is what she said. It's a screen and it has a bunch of little squares and pictures on it. What's that called? And like one of the younger students next to her was like, the desktop. And she's like, oh, okay, is that what it's called? And I was like, okay, so we got to really pay attention to you because you might get, left behind with some of the language. But you never know if people have never needed to know technology for their job. Sometimes.
I was like that in summer one. That's how
Yeah.
I told it so well, because I couldn't even send an email.
Yeah.
And they was asking me, well, how did you manage a furniture equipment store and couldn't use a computer? I said, I had 2 secretaries. I
Yeah.
didn't have to do nothing. I just went and tell them what to do.
Yeah. And especially you never have to touch the,
Right.
yeah. And that's mostly what most people's experience with that is. It's the job that they do. They never have to use it. And at home, I don't come from the era of people communicating that way on a regular basis. It's more now than what it's ever been. So, normally people pick up the phone. These days, they might send you a quick text. So in your home life, you may not even use it on a regular basis, So then computer program or program, it's the instructions that tell a computer how to carry out processing tasks. So you have your computer, and when it's sitting at rest, it's sitting at rest. There's nothing that's happening on it until you install a program that tells it what to do next, or that tells it how to perform a certain function. Does it make sense? So your computer, without you programming it and telling it what to do next and telling it what functions you want to run, it's just going to sit there, and it'll stay powered up. And it'll run its routine things that are happening in the background. But at the end of the day, even those routine things that are happening in the background from the operating system, those are still programs. So when you hear people called programmers, those are people that create programs that other people use to do jobs on places, or to teach a class or things like that. And then a CPU. If you heard people say CPU before, it's not actually talking about the tower. A lot of people refer to the actual tower, the desktop computer, as the CPU. And the CPU is really more specific to the central processing unit. It's more specific to the actual components on the motherboard that process information. So it's a part of, the CPU is a part of the entire system unit, but it definitely is separate. And those parts? It's like 3 main parts of it. I saw you on your finger.
I see. Look, I'm in the other class.
Oh, yeah.
Now.
The processor, the memory, and then it's still another type of memory chip, but it's RAM and ROM.
Yeah, the video card.
Now, the video card, that's outside of the
It's
CPU.
the RAM.
Yeah, it's RAM, ROM, and the processor.
Yeah, I take that 1425, so I will learn.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I usually drag an old computer in here and go ahead and break it down and let students put it back together, so you can get the feel of how it is to build a computer without being involved in what are the specs, what do we need, how do we do this, how do we do that. You can do the physical part of it, but know there's a part of it where you're supposed to know what type of processor speed can match what type of motherboard, what type of pin set. We'll use what we have, but you'll know the physical aspect of it. Then it'll take the technical knowledge of what to go pick out if you were to go to the store and build your own computer kind of thing. That's the main processor in a computer, a central processing unit. Then you have memory. It temporarily holds data. So we talk about the memory that temporarily holds data like RAM. It's called random access memory. The reason why it temporarily holds data is because it's called volatile, which means that it's loyal to whichever program you're running at that particular time. If you're not running a program that you were using last time you were using a computer, then the memory has already dumped the memory for that particular program, and it's latched on to what you're using at that moment. It's only loyal to what you're using in that particular moment. So it dumps information consistently. Storage holds data on a permanent basis. So you have what they call secondary storage on your computer, which is generally the hard drive. And it's called secondary storage because memory is considered your first storage, even though it dumps information quite often, but it still stores it for a temporary amount of time. So beyond that, you need a more permanent storage, and that's going to usually be the hard drive on the system. And so those are when we start talking about secondary storage, that's one of those things. Storage, you can hold things on a permanent basis. Any questions about exploring how computers work? Y'all are good right now. These slides are really good, so they won't lose you by far at all. A file. Does everybody know what a file is? A file? Well, you know what a file is. Yeah.
I know what it is.
Well, yeah. Well, no, this is, don't overthink it. This is literally saying, do you know what a file is? Like a Word document. Oh, yeah, an Excel document, or like a video file, an access file. Exactly. That's a file. It's a named collection of data that exists on a storage medium. So a file is something you name and you save it to a storage medium. Storage medium is going to be your hard drive. It's going to be a CD, a DVD, a flash drive, a jump drive, a thumb drive, or USB drive, whatever they're calling it, it's all the same thing. The most recent name I see now most of the time is thumb drive. It used to be jump drive a lot and flash drive in the beginning, and it kind of goes through those phases. But thumb drive is what we say a lot now. The difference between a hard drive and something like a thumb drive, even though they're both secondary pieces of storage and they store information, is that the hard drive has mechanical moving parts on the inside of it. Your thumb drive or your flash drives or jump drives, they're called solid state storage. They don't have any moving parts on the inside of it. That's why we can bang those up real bad. We have them on our keychains. We have them at the bottom of our backpack, and we can plug them in, and it'll still let you open up your documents like nothing's wrong. You can't do that with a hard drive that's built into a desktop computer. A lot of times one drop to the floor will shift the mechanical parts enough in the inside to ruin or crash, cause a head crash on the hard drive. So those are the difference between your storage mediums. Hard drives, you generally don't take them around and do anything with them. They usually are stationary inside the system. Solid state storage are usually portable. You take them around different places because they can take a lot of movement without trouble. There's other types of storage. We know about floppy drives. Come from the era of floppy drives. Now we know about the reason why they're called floppy disks, right? The original floppy drive. I just like to tell students that they used to be this big and they were actually floppy. So when I talk about that, I always say that the ones we use the most that are probably having, yeah, there's still an option to put one in on these computers. I had to check. We use the most, and we used to use them a lot more. In the next phase of these computers probably won't have a floppy drive anymore. They got their name from the larger drives. And it generally was the B drive on your computer. So that's why you look on your computer, you'll see A drive for the floppy, then you'll see it jump to C drive for the hard drive. You'll never see a B drive. Because once that big floppy drive went away, they never replaced anything else for the letter B. So when you're naming disk drives, you can't even name it B. So I don't know. I need to look that up on Google to see if they're paying homage to the old floppy drive. But turning off a computer. Does everybody know how to turn off a computer? I have to ask. Okay. Start button. You go to the option that says shut down a system. A lot of people think when I say turn off a computer, that means just press the button and hold it down. That's your last option. And it's true, because if it's running any processes, you want the computer to wrap up its processes that it's running in the background that you can't see, that's making the computer run more efficiently. You want it to do all those things before you actually shut the system all the way down. You don't want to, what do they call it, a cold start, cold restart, cold boot. That means you shut it down, hold the button until it shuts down and it's not finished anything. So when it restarts, a lot of times it'll give you a message. Do you want to start Windows normally or in a safe mode? Because it assumes something must have happened for you to go ahead and shut me down that quickly. So just remember that too. And it has, if you're using an Apple Macintosh computer, use an Apple icon. Here's some displays over here of how the start button is different in each version of Windows. And I think we remember these. The green one is Windows XP. That's the one I'm most familiar with when I was doing a lot of troubleshooting and working on computers. Windows XP was the longest running operating system that was there in the midst of the digital revolution, put it that way. It was very solid. It was very non-glitchy. That's a good word for it. That's as best as I can do, is non-glitchy. And then from there we had Vista, which was kind of just the opposite, not as stable, a lot of glitches. And then it kind of looked the same in Windows 7, the start button menu. It's that little round medallion with the Windows sign on it. So then we categorize computers, personal computers. I think we all know what this is. A desktop computer, a portable computer, notebooks, laptops, netbooks, which is a smaller version of a laptop, and then tablets, that's like your iPads, any type of those little touchpad devices you see about the size of an iPad. That's going to be your tablet computers. They used to come with a stylus pen to write on it, and they don't come with that anymore, because you can generally, have a virtual keyboard on the screen and you can type on them now. There's also handheld computers, which the book talks a lot about personal digital assistants, a PDA. Now, PDAs were kind of an in-between technology, because it wasn't before PDAs came out where you can put your contacts on it, all your phone numbers, all your email references. You can even do the latest news on your PDA, but the only thing is most of them weren't connected to the internet. So in order to get it updated, you had to actually plug it into your computer and let it sync new emails, sync new contacts, sync new news feeds and all that. Then you can walk away with it. Now at the time, that was very convenient for you to be able to do it that way. Exactly. We got, you stop seeing people with those little Rolodexes on there. That's when they got a PDA. And then, and it's so funny because in modern movies, sometimes they use those for effect. Because they say, well, if you put an electronic device inside of a movie, it takes away from a lot of the normal activities that people do. Like not having them have landlines, them not having Rolodexes, no answering machines. It's like if you actually allow people in the movies to do everything that you do in real life on a smartphone, a lot of the action wouldn't happen. You wouldn't be chasing somebody down the street, ringing on the doorbell and nobody answered. All those things are kind of eliminated in real life. For movies and all, that's more of a dramatic effect to take electronic devices out of it. But that's something else. So PDAs kind of were out for a little bit and they were very expensive. Then right after that, smartphones were developed. So it's like, I got this PDA, it doesn't even have internet connection. And then I have a phone I have to carry to. So then BlackBerry kind of mastered putting all that into one device so that you can actually wirelessly sync all your email, get news feeds instantly, and have your phone be the same place where you conduct business at. And then the smartphone has graduated since then, and you can do everything on it. I've seen students order books on it, ordering SAM cards on it and stuff online and all that. I'm just like, shouldn't you be at a desktop? Now, I know it makes no difference, but it's just a part of me that thinks that screen is too little to conduct real business on. And then, of course, mobile banking and all that kind of stuff. And believe it or not, I check all my class emails and everything. I use my smartphone for it, so it definitely comes in handy. And we already talked about what a tower computer was. That means it has the full tower like the ones we have here in class. And then we have the all-in-one computer there. And that computer there, the all-in-one option for this computer, the hard drive is built into the monitor there. That's, yeah, that came and went. That didn't really stay around that long because people started carrying laptops more often than not. Macintosh was the first ones to do that type of computer to where you had the hard drive built into the back and you changed the memory by going into the back of the monitor. You added new memory and changed things on the system. So Our version of all-in-one computer is an iPad or either a laptop. Everything is inclusive, of course. And then this is also pictures. And then they had the convertible tablet for a little while. I don't see those much anymore, where you twist and turn them and then flatten them out, like the fourth picture there. And the convertible tablets. Now everybody's pretty much used to the keyboard being on the screen rather than having a full laptop setup. They were very heavy, by the way. And then the workstations, a powerful desktop computer designed for specialized tasks. So you'll see the term workstation referred to as a lot of different terms. A workstation can be just like in here. Now it says powerful task. I mean, that could be an option. Depending on what you're doing for your job, like if you're the person that processes transcripts at the main office of the district or something, then they may say that you have a workstation. But on the operating system on Windows 7, Windows XP, that's the name that's called for every computer on the network. They call it a workstation. So when you're setting up a network and you're naming computers and you're adding them to the network, each one of the individual systems are called workstations, no matter what task they perform. So just remember that it's an individual station for you to perform specific tasks on it. Then a mainframe computer, large, expensive computer that can process data for thousands of users. Mainframe computers kind of were more popular before we got internet and before we started networking systems across the world pretty much. If you ever worked at a place where they were working on a mainframe computer, it was a computer that was there that didn't allow you to do anything but tap into the mainframe system and do your job on a mainframe system. There was no internet. There was no pretty pictures, no start menu, no graphical user interface. It was only you log in and then you can perform the task. And most of the time, the commands were done on a keyboard. It wasn't any mouse along with it. You were tapping into the mainframe system. The mainframe system was the the email server. You went there to get messages. Also, the application server. You couldn't start any programs on your computer until you logged into the mainframe system. So now it's a little bit different as far as how you can use computers, especially in the workplace. Somebody knock?
No,
oh, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, no, you're fine. Okay, then supercomputer. Those are like the ones that are used for the IRS, the government. They store all your social security numbers, all of your date of births, and anything you can think of that's like massive information that will be going through the government. Definitely tax-related information, addresses of people, background information. All those are stored on supercomputers, which means they take up about the size of a room. They store an amazing amount of information, and they process at speeds that's beyond what we can fathom on a regular basis. The term server has several meanings that can refer to hardware, software, or a combination of hardware and software. So saying a server, if you ever hear the term server a lot, I can clear it up for you real quick if you weren't sure what it is. A server is just a main computer that's set up that gives commands and allows other computers on the network to have access to a certain area on the network. It can also be an email server, which means that just like on campus here, everybody has that option of NetMail. Do y'all use that? Yeah, if you use NetMail, you might use your own email. A lot of people never log into NetMail. But you have an email. All of your emails are sent and received using the email server for this particular campus, for this particular group of people. And you can also have a print server. A print server has a list of all the printers and all their IP addresses all in one area. So when you log in on your computer, you can go through here and pick any one of those printers as long as they're on the network, because the server has them set up to where you can log into them. Make sense? And so then you can also have an application server, which allows you to tap into software that's not installed on your computer, but it's installed on a main system, and you can log into the network and use the software on that system. Something like DataTel, or like, what do y'all use? I was about to say the wrong name. eConnect or something that stores information. So there's an application server that's actually allowing you to see inside of that one computer's database. But you don't store it on your computer. You just tap into it from your own system. Examining personal computers. Basic parts of a desktop personal computer are the system unit, that's like the tower, the display device, the monitor. I thought we already went through this. the keyboard, the mouse, storage devices, hard drive, USB drive, and CD drive, optical drive. That's a CD drive, DVD drive. It's anything that's that takes the circular disc. So, I mean, it has an optical laser, and that's how it reads. So it's going to be a CD, a DVD, a Blu-ray disc, something like that. No, that's just your regular CD drive on the system. Yeah. So, no, it's just a basic. They call it optical drives because of the way that it reads the actual disc. But, no, that's very basic. Basic parts of a desktop personal computer. The sound system, we already know that. It has speakers, a printer, network and internet access, a modem. Anybody knows what a modem is? Y'all are already clear. A modem is how you actually get internet service on your devices at your home and things. And now modems are coupled with routers, so you don't have to go buy a separate router to try. I remember that was really big when I used to sell computers at Circuit City a long time ago. People would come in because it came with a modem from the cable company, but it only allowed you to hook up 1 or 2 computers with a wire. So in order to get your wireless signal all over your house, you had to go in the store and go buy an additional wireless router, and it had 2 little antennas on it, and you would plug that into the modem. Now from the cable company, they give you a modem and router all into one. So it's also the modem, and then it also has an antenna on it usually. It lets you get wireless connection. Then you can also have a dial-up modem. Anybody using dial-up?
Yeah, that's kind of like obsolete, man.
Well, not really. Like dial-up connection? With the, you know, the funny thing about it is half of the United States, and you know, you can start it and then you go get yourself a snack, you go use the restroom, go get your books together, and then come back in a computer. And all it would take is one person in the house to pick up the phone on the other end and to mess up your connection, you know. And it was very slow, couldn't play videos, they had to buffer. Actually, half of the United States is still using dial-up. Anybody know why? I have an idea why people are still using dial-up? Not, and you know, cheaper is the first thing everybody says. You know they pay extra for it. It's not available.
Okay, so broadband is not available.
It's not always available everywhere. You have some places, well, of course, there's satellite that's available, but satellite is not as efficient as your cable setups. And it can be very expensive because the towers it takes to put in some of those rural areas and some of the mountainous areas, it doesn't pay them to install the towers if they're only going to get 1,000 customers from that one tower of connectivity.
I got some relatives in Alabama, and they got lots of areas in Alabama don't have nothing.
Oh, yes, a lot of areas. And so sometimes when you call a company, they say, because they look at the customer base. It's all about the bottom line and money. So if it doesn't pay them to put service in your area, then they won't put service in your area. And, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, whether 5 people really want it real bad. 5 people aren't going to pay for the equipment to be shipped and installed and supported in some of those areas. Then we also have webcams, like the one I'm using. I'm not recording any video on it, but it has a microphone on it, which is great. And this is all the parts we just named, and we will not go through them again because they're just pointing out what each kind of device is. MP3 players, cameras, USB drives, printers, monitors, scanners, all that kind of stuff. Portable computers, we already know what those are. Laptops and things like that. Computer network, 2 or more computers and other devices connected for sharing data and programs. The only reason why we connect computers, period, is to share data. So whenever you have a computer, the only way that you're not on a network is if you don't have any internet connection and you're not connected to any other system. Once you get connected to the internet, you're automatically on the largest network in the world, which is the internet. Sometimes you're not on the internet, but your computer is connected to another computer right next to yours. So like that classroom over there, it's a networking class. So they can't use the computers in that classroom because they don't have any internet. And we all know how everybody feels about computers with no internet. They're pretty useless. It's like, you know, I had this computer I used to have to work on computers at my house. And everybody would come in the door and just start typing away because they thought that it had internet. They were like, something's wrong with your internet. I'm like, oh, that computer doesn't have internet. It was virtually useless. They would just go, oh, and walk away. You know, nobody wanted to use a computer with no internet access because that's mostly what we do is, you know, check things online. So anytime you have 2 or more computer or devices connected and sharing information back and forth, that means that you're on a network. And then we talk about the different types of network, and a local area network is one of those, which can be measured as something like this building right here at the school. That's a local area network, which means that you probably have one wiring closet that wires all the computers at this room, and then you also have a wireless router in the closet that sends wireless connection over this particular building. So that's going to be called a local area network. And then internet, the largest network in the world. And I told y'all before the difference between the internet and the World Wide Web. The internet is
The World Wide Web is like what you get on the internet.
Yeah.
Different companies.
Exactly. Yeah, the internet is the vehicle in which the World Wide Web travels through. You are. And I always tell people that the internet is the vehicle and the people inside the car is the World Wide Web. Because there's been different people inside the car. When the internet first came out, we used to use a system called ARPANET. And it was for military and government use. It wasn't www, World Wide Web. So other countries use other data, because World Wide Web is only a database of pictures, video, audio, and text. That's it. A database, picture, video, audio, and text files. That's it. So all of those things are just a database, a full-fledged collection. Then you have databases within a database like Google searches. World Wide Web is the largest database for everything. And then you have other countries that uses different web services, put it that way.
Now, can I ask you a question while we're talking about this now? What does that HTTP stand for?
That's the Hypertext Transfer Protocol.
Okay.
That means that, I know you're like, now from there. That means that that's a standard language that's spoken so that everybody goes to the same places when it comes to addresses. It's like, a best explanation for it is like a zip code for an address. Like if you go into somebody's house for an address, there's a standard way that they want to be able to find an address. And it usually is the street number, the street name, then the state name, and then the zip code. So like a computer address is the same way. It has to be set up in a main way. The protocol says that you have to have the first the domain that you're trying to visit, the website you're trying to visit, and then from there you have the higher level domain. And the higher level domain is going to be like .edu, .gov, .com, and that's going to let you know where you're trying to get to. It's a standard language.
Like HTTP.
S.
Yeah, the S.
And the S means that you're on a secured website.
Okay.
So that means you're on a website that you should feel comfortable with doing financial transactions on, because it's a secure website, or any type of e-business. You know, it doesn't have to be financial. But HTTP is just a protocol. It's so we can all speak the same language all around the world if we're going to use the World Wide Web. Operating system, we already talked about this. We don't have to talk about it again. That's the main type of software, system software. It's also called a platform when you're talking about an operating system. The platform, which in other words, foundation, the base type of software that your computer boots up on, operating system. Depending on what type of system you're working on, it's going to change. So for a PC, the platform will be a PC. The operating system is going to be either Windows 7, Windows XP, or Windows Vista. For a Mac, that platform, the operating system choices is the Mac operating system. And then you also have Linux, which is not very commonly used, but it is one of the options that's out there. Somebody's using Linux on their new computers. It's just another operating system. It's another platform. Ubuntu is the newest one. Dell is putting it on some of their computers because you know that we're all about Microsoft. If it's not Microsoft and then Macintosh, it's like nobody's using it. But there's other companies out there that create operating systems. So you're having some of them that's coming installed on computers now. And you may start seeing that kind of stuff more often. And this is just the background of how a Windows 7 window would look and then a Mac OS would look. Those little things on the desktops are called widgets, where you see the calculator and the calendars and all that. Widgets are just so you can have quick access to things that you want to know right on your desktop. They used to run on Windows Vista a lot. People got rid of them. They take up a lot of memory space, they take up a lot of your memory. That's pretty much why you're using a computer. They'll slow you down if you have too many widgets on the desktop. because the desktop is always active. It's always being saved in the memory while you're on the computer, everything that's on the desktop. That's why I always tell people, get away from storing every single one of your files and folders on the desktop and having the whole thing full, because that can slow your system down. And then, like I said before, we have a graphical user interface, sometimes called a GUI. It displays on-screen graphical controls. So like before we actually had the operating systems on the computer that displayed something besides a black screen and white words, we have something after that, which the operating systems provide, is a graphical user interface, which means that it allows you to see things like this. It allows you to see pictures. It allows you to have links to click on rather than doing keyboard commands. It's a user interface that's real graphical and it's real user-friendly. And it usually brings about colors, links. It allows you to group things together so that you don't have to go from screen to screen to screen like on older systems. You can actually click and things are in groups. They're in folders. They're in files. You have those options. And it's visually appealing, so that way you can maneuver through the operating system better. So, because the old way, you know, you just had to know what you were doing for that job you were doing, you know. Now you can kind of read and know what to click on and what not to, and actually maneuver your way really well through an operating system. And then we have application software. We talked about that already. Different examples of that is like Adobe Reader, Word. It's going to be anything that you install on your system to do a specific task. Anything, yeah. Your application software is anything extra outside of the system software. And then sharing files depends on the system's capability, compatibility. And we all know that most systems are very compatible with other systems. It used to be the old way to make something real proprietary. And so the word proprietary means that a company, they make files, they make operating systems, they make connections, power supplies, and all that are only specific to the devices that they make. Who's really good at that? Well, at least Shauna's. Who's really good at proprietary products? Which means that they make operating systems, software. No, Microsoft is very open. No, Macintosh.
Macintosh, because
you can't use their products with anything else. They're real proprietary.
Right.
Gateway used to be like that. When they came out with their laptops, the power connections on the back used to have like what they call Mickey Mouse ears. And it couldn't plug into anything else but a gateway power supply. So you don't like stuff like that. Microsoft doesn't do that. And people thinking that way you lose money, but Microsoft has mastered leaving their products open and interchangeable with other pieces of software and hardware without actually losing money because of it. So it's a pretty good deal.
So that's the difference in being licensed and unlicensed, sort of like.
Well, no, it's all licensed. Okay. Yeah, it's all licensed. It's just that the platform is open and it can be used with other products. It's still licensed though. So like, and then they converge other technologies. So like if you look inside of a Microsoft computer, like a basic PC, you'll see other things inside of it, like Intel chips, things like that, and Macintosh does everything itself. It makes its own products. Apple is Apple. Now there have been some recent convergence or some, compatibility going on, and we'll see how that works, but that's what they're known for. And popular elements of a graphical user interface is that it gives you a taskbar at the bottom. It also gives you icons on your desktops. It also gives you these things called windows. So that tends to term windows. Those, whenever you open up a file or folder, it's called a window. And I always say you can remember that where the term comes from. You see it inside the operating system into different files and folders using the windows. And then it also gives you a desktop, scroll bars up and down, notification, time and date, things like that. We use the internet for all kinds of things, the internet and the web. One of the major things that we use the internet and the web for, anybody can think of it, wireless devices. What do we do mostly on all our gadgets?
Usually we do a lot of shopping.
Communicating. Yeah, communicating. And even your shopping is communicating. Usually it's just to reach out and correspond with somebody else that's out there. Oh, yeah. Correspond with somebody else that's out there that's selling a good or a service or talking about a particular topic that we're interested in. So you can have email. We all know what electronic mail is. And it's so funny, that's the term electronic mail, but everybody, of course, calls it email, but electronic mail sounds really old-fashioned to me. And then you have chat groups, and those kind of went out when social networking sites came in, because then you didn't chat with people because you all were teenagers. You kind of just went online and grouped together, you know, got on these social networking sites, found your friends that were also on these sites, and then became friends within the social networking site too. Chat groups were kind of more anonymous. You didn't do pictures, you didn't do music, you didn't display, oh, this is what we did this weekend, look at this video, you know.
That's what I'm saying. Why do people talk to strange people? You don't even know.
Why do they talk to strange people?
Yeah.
People that they don't know. I mean, because...
From California, she talked to strong supposed and she became one of them. That's how she fell to Africa. And they got married. You don't even know.
She flew to Africa and got married?
She's from California. From California, Florida. It took about 22 hours flying.
And she went and got married in Africa? Well, you know, when people are on a mission.
Yeah, she was not happy.
No, but you know, I'm laughing because I'm looking at Brother Bear's expressions, and she's like, "Yeah, that's something else." I mean, you know, so you can also say, "Hey, the internet has allowed for a lot of different types of communication. People didn't have the option to do things like that so quickly." Go ahead.
I have an episode. I want to tell you about my son. It was my ex-husband. I never worry about him. He asked another person. I got fussed at my friend. I told my friend, he told me to try to person. He asked me, do you know my wife's name? The third one, last name, Brooklyn. He's like, yeah. How she was doing. And then he came to me, touched me, and never tell people watch him. I said, what's wrong with your mind? Every couple of the strange person.
So what happened?
He said, I don't know. I said, never tell my ass from my picture. I don't know what people doing. I was so upset until I got him to play on you. Never do it again.
Oh, so that's what he did? He told someone.
Her ex-husband.
Yeah. He's like her ex-husband.
Yeah, her ex-husband was online talking to some strangers.
Oh, okay.
I'm taking sign language too.
Oh.
I like to teach sign language, so I've been trying to learn sign language.
Oh, okay.
So some of the things she be saying, I understand. So
oh, okay.
she was talking to her ex-husband. Her ex-husband was giving her information to a stranger. And she was like, why did you give my information to a stranger? Yeah, they was watching. Yeah, just chatting online with a stranger.
Yeah. Well, you see how online can be a very scary place, and it can also be a place where you can do a lot of good things with communication too. But it can also be a place where you want to make sure that you know who you're talking to. There's a new device out that kids can use now. It's like a little gadget that hangs on their keychain, and they can only add friends to their Facebook list and things like that if they meet them in person first. So what happens is once they meet the person in person, they go ahead and swipe this gadget over their device, and it clicks. So then they become a friend online. So they can't add any friends unless they've met them in person. Now, this doesn't eliminate strange people at the mall.
Yeah,
and they can go ahead and swipe their devices, and they're like, yeah, we're friends. And it's like the parents don't even know. They drop them off at the mall for an hour, and they think they know this person because they met them face to face. So you always have to pay attention when it comes to anything online. Also, one of the other things I want to discuss is voice over IP. That's kind of like when you have an existing internet connection over a high-speed internet connection, and then you put a phone connection on top of that. So instead of the old way like we used to do it, using an existing telephone line to bring internet in, which is very slow, now we use an existing high-speed internet connection to actually have our phone conversations over it. We use an IP address.
Okay.
Phone.
I was going to ask that question.
Yes. Yeah, the phones come with IP addresses.
Right.
The benefit of that for businesses is that when people move around from one office to the next, that phone is always attached to them and the voicemail attached to it. They don't have to call the phone company because I used to do that once a month, and you said we have telephone switches. And so the telephone company had to come out and open their closet and switch the people that moved from one office to the next because it was their landlines. Now, when you made this a voice over an IP type of phone setup in your office space, you can change people's offices without them ever even having to touch the phones. You set up the phone with their name and their IP address for that phone one time, and no matter where they go, they can unplug the phone and go to a new office, and the phone will still have the same IP address. It works just like a computer. So the computer is the same thing. It doesn't matter where you're sitting at. All you would have to do is go into a database and say that the person moved from one room to the next. You don't have to call a phone company or call a dial-up internet service or anything because their IP addresses are assigned to that person. And that's the best thing about having networking cards on devices, that they can be moved around without having to be reinstalled. Web, like I said, short for World Wide Web. It's the collection of web pages interconnected through the use of hypertext, like we talked about, the hypertext protocol, or links. A browser, we all know what a browser is. The internet browser. You can also have your Windows browser too. Your Windows browser is just simply how you open up, when you open up a file and folder on your computer without going out to the internet. So there's the Internet Explorer, there's like Mozilla Firefox, there's like Chrome, those are all browsers. Then you also have the browser that's within your operating system, and it's called Windows browser. And the Windows browser has a little icon on the desktop. I forgot how it looks, but it's on your computer. It's one of the quick links in a taskbar. It's yellow, I believe it is. But that's what your book talks about, the Windows Explorer. It's talking about how you explore your computer, not the internet. And you'll notice that it's set up the same way. When you open a window, it looks just like an internet browser window. You have the top where you can put your file folder, where you want to go to, what file, what folder you want to visit, just the same place where you would put a URL on a browser window. Same thing. Website is a group of web pages. I think we know that. So one website equals a bunch of web pages. Search site to find information on the web, a search engine. So like Google is a search engine. What's another search engine?
Bing.
Yahoo.
Bing,
Yeah.
Yahoo, things like that.
Google Chrome, is that separate from Google?
No, all of those are Google products. Google Chrome is their Internet Explorer. So it's the browser that Google created, which works really well, by the way. I don't even use Internet Explorer. I use Google Chrome all the time. Mm-hmm. And at the beginning, a lot of software wouldn't work with it, but you'll see the longer something's out, then it'll stop, not showing web pages and all that. So you have to think about it. With this software, there's no way in the world to know what everybody's going to be doing on their computers and how your software is going to affect millions of computers all around the world. So that's why you get these glitches that happen, and it's actually if you want to report the issue or not. And most people, they say send or don't send. What happened? Most people do don't send because they think it's some type of questionnaire coming up or something. But that information is used to then create patches. So that when you go to the website, it's like, oh, there's some updates. All updates is like catching up for the mistakes that were made when creating the software. And the only way to know what those are is to let people use it and buy it. So that's where that comes from. And then URL is the Uniform Resource Locator. So the URL is the address. The URL has a bar in the address bar. That's where you type in www.bankofamerica.com. That's the URL. http://www.bankofamerica.com. That's going to be a URL. And then we will get into the HTTP Hypertext Transfer Protocol, communication standard used to transport web pages over the internet. So everybody speaks the same language. This is what a URL is on a regular window. I think we know that. This is an example of a URL. So http:// and then your web address. And it has the different parts of it. This is the web protocol standard, the HTTP, and then the web server name, and then the folder name within that web server, and then the document name and file extension that you're actually trying to reach.
Now, what's the difference in a forward slash and a backward slash?
Well, they're different icons, but it doesn't work for the protocol. The protocol is the backward slash. And I believe the backward slash is when the top goes back, right?
Right.
Okay. It took me a long time to not do the wrong one on that.
I'm having that problem now.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if there's any real difference, but that's just a part of the protocol that's being used.
Yeah, sometimes it won't let you go to the web.
It's not going to let you because the computer only knows that it's not the right symbol. That's all. So when you put the correct, because it'll send you to a page of, nowhere most of the time. But we use the backslash for any addresses. Email. Everybody know how to send an email? You know what an email is? Okay. Yes. I won't even go through the parts of an email. I just can't do that. Email is based and stored and forwarded. I always tell people, once you let that email leave out of your box, you can do all that retract and delete if you want to, but it's still out there. It's on a server, because what email has to do is, it starts off here with you, and then this is a server, and this is a server, and this is your friend. So then it has to go to the server that you're using, and then from your server, it goes to their server, and then it goes to your friend. So it's been saved here and here, and then your friend probably won't delete it anyway if it's something that you didn't want it to get out there. So I said pictures are all the same way. It's going to go to the server of the sender, the server of the receiver, and then to the person you're actually sending it to.
People say pictures get leaked out. It can get leaked out.
Oh, it gets leaked out by the people that run these servers. You think it doesn't? Because people are in charge. Because computers can't do anything unless we say that it's time for them to do something. As much as we like to think they're running the world, we still have to walk up to them and press the power button on.
We did a project in the summer about network, media network, how the bosses, the employees can go on the social network now and research you. If
they do that a lot.
For application or whatever.
We cover a whole section in that where they use social networking as a way.
Presentation, I did that.
Yeah.
That was my.
And they use it as a way to vet their new employees.
Yeah, I did a project.
Yeah. Y'all time is up, and I just want to make sure you're on the second to last slide, and I just want to go through because none of this stuff is anything really pertinent. We don't have to go through the email. And this is another good one. Read this. Who's reading your email? Yes, lots of people have access to your email, so remember that. But for the most part, it is private. And your privacy is always relative. Until you become some type of a person where your information becomes valuable, then it's no longer private. I can almost guarantee you that. So people that burst in the spotlight from one day to the next, they're very worried about what pictures they just posted on a website or what emails they've been sending, because a lot of people have privy to that information. They said the best way to keep something to yourself is to what?
Never put it on.
Is to keep it to yourself. So anyway, so it has a lot of things about court decisions and organizations and what the chapter included. Computer terms, basic parts, different kinds of personal computers, various software, the internet, the World Wide Web, email, and ways to preserve your privacy when using email. Next class, we'll watch a video about privacy on the internet and email privacy. Is pretty good. So I'll play that for you all next time. Any questions about anything? Okay, sorry about the couple of minutes over time.
That's all right. Now, does that mean if we spend a few minutes extra, we get